Pyongyang Folk Park. Pyongyang Folk Park occupies an area of over 200 hectares at the foot of Mount Daesung, 6 kilometers from the center of Pyongyang City, the capital of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Pyongyang Folk Park is divided into General History Education District, Historic Relics Exhibition District, Modern District, Folk Village District, and Folk Game District. One, Historic Relics Exhibition District. Historic Relics Exhibition District is divided into primitive, ancient, medieval, and Korean map sections that show life-size or reduced models of over 130 kinds of remains and relics. The Historic Relics Exhibition District begins from primitive and ancient sections. These are field animal figures that represent animals which lived in Korea in a Paleolithic era, the earliest era in human history. These primitive animals bespeak that Korea at that time had the natural and climatic conditions favorable to the birth of mankind. The park represents a primeval cave in which primitive men lived. A picture in the cave shows their life. At Komunmoru site, Sangwon County in the Taedong River basin, there were discovered scores of kinds of fossil bones of animals eaten by primitive men 1 million years ago, and stone implements they had used in their labor. It evidently proves that Korea is one of the earliest cradles of humankind in the world. Primitive men, Paleolithic men, Neolithic men, Koreans in primitive form represented in the park show the process of birth and development of man in Korea. The remains and relics indicate that the Taedong River basin is the cradle of Koreans, in which man has lived generation after generation since over 1 million years ago. The primitive and ancient sections represent typical dwellings and tombs, showing the development of ancient Korea, the first ancient state in Korea. Mausoleum of King Tangun represents the tomb of King Tangun, who founded ancient Korea, the first state in the East in the early 30th century BC. Mausoleum of King Tangun proves that the Korean nation is a single homogeneous nation with King Tangun as its father. And Korea is a time-honored country with a 5,000-year-long history. The park represents Tomb of the Buried Alive and Gangsang Tomb, early tombs of ancient Korea. The tombs bespeak that ancient Korea was a powerful slave-owning state, represented the interests of the slave owners. These are typical dolmens of ancient Korea. In tombs and many other relics of ancient times, there were discovered many remains showing the developed culture in the Bronze Age, such as pipa-shaped daggers and narrow brass daggers. Pipa-shaped dagger representing the culture of the Bronze Age is on the highest level in its quality and manufacturing technique. Such a high level of metal culture characterizes the Taedonggang culture, distinguished from the 4 great civilizations of the world. Visiting the primitive and ancient sections, you learn that Korea is a cradle of humankind and an origin of human culture. After visiting the primitive and ancient sections, you enter the medieval section that covers the largest area. The section divided into mausoleum area, pagoda area, group of stupas, and medieval relics area comprising the remains and relics in the medieval ages. In the mausoleum area, there are models of the tomb of King Dongmyeong, who founded the feudal dynasty of Goguryeo, the most powerful in the history of Korea, and the tomb of King Wangun, who founded Goryeo, the first unified state in Korea. Monument to Mausoleum of King Gwanggaeto is a tombstone set up in front of the tomb of Gwanggaeto, king of the Goguryeo dynasty, to the memory of his exploits. The life-size monument bears some 1,800 characters that describe the exploits of King Gwanggaeto in demonstrating the power of the country and expanding its territory and the features of the times. The mausoleum area exhibits modeled tombs showing the process of change of tombs from the typical tomb of Goguryeo to the tomb of Princess Jeonghye of Balhae dynasty, a successor to Goguryeo. The tomb of Gogugwon, the 21st king of Goguryeo, is represented in its life size. Mural paintings in stone chambers of the earth tomb were drawn directly on the stone wall. They are rich in contents and developed in painting art. The paintings were on a very high level for that time. Mural paintings in Goguryeo tomb preserve their original color even today after 1,000 and several hundred years. It shows the high level of development of fine art of Goguryeo and high technique to produce good quality paints. Here are exhibited mural paintings of Goguryeo tomb that are registered as World Cultural Heritages. Mural paintings of 5 tombs of Goguryeo on display represent the specific content and structure. The pagoda area represents 10 typical pagodas of different forms, according to the process of their change. In the center of the pagoda area, there stands the life-size pagoda at Kumgang Temple of Goguryeo. The 66-meter-high pagoda is a many-story wooden tower with columnar frame on an octagonal plane. It shows the development of early wooden tower of Korea. Representing the pagoda, the builders installed an elevator inside, so that you can command a bird's-eye view of the park from the top of the pagoda. As you see here, the size of pagoda in Korea was the largest in the period of the three states, Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla. Along with pagodas of the period of the three states that inherited the architectural art of pagoda of Goguryeo, the park represents pagodas of the following periods, thereby enabling you to see the development of the architectural art of tower in the medieval ages at first sight. There is also a life-size model of a Sangyong stone lantern of Balhae dynasty, a successor to Goguryeo. Sangyong stone lantern belongs to the oldest and finest of that kind in Korea and other countries in the East. It greatly influenced the manufacture of stone lantern and the building of pagoda of Goryeo and other neighboring countries. This is a life-size model of Sokgul Grotto in Gyeongju, a stone grotto-type Buddhist temple of the later Silla that coexisted with Balhae. A 3.5-meter-tall image of Sakyamuni Tatarta is surrounded by over 40 sculptured Buddhist images with different faces and postures. The medieval section represents Buddhist relics of the period of Goryeo. Registered as the world's cultural heritages are historic remains and relics in Kaesong, including the mausoleum of Wangun, father of Goryeo, the first unified state of Korea that existed for nearly 500 years. These are models of statues of civilian and military officials at the mausoleum of King Gongmin, the 31st king of Goryeo. They are the best figure sculptures in history and evidence of the distinguished formative and artistic talent of the people at that time. The medieval section displays models of arms and equipment and different remains and relics, showing the successes in military science, astronomy, meteorology, geography, and other scientific and technical domains in the medieval ages. This is the model of Cheomseongdae Astronomical Observatory in Gyeongju, the oldest of its kind remaining in the world. It was built by piling up over 360 pieces of granite, symbolic of a year, without using adhesive agents, to the height of 9.1 meters. But it remains as it was, though over 1,300 years have passed. This is a model of Tsugugi rain gauge, invented for the first time in the world in 1441 during the feudal dynasty of Korea. Tsugugi of Korea was invented some 200 years ahead of that of Italy, that measured the depth of rain by dint of a gauge in 1639. Inheriting the scientific and cultural successes of the ancestors, the Korean people left many cultural heritages deserving to boast. This is a life-size turtle boat, the first ironclad boat in the world, built during the feudal dynasty of Korea. The deck is made of wood in the shape of a turtle back and clad with iron plates, and its surface bristles with swords and spikes. Simple in its structure, the boat was solid, safe, and speedy. It was better than other ships in fighting equipment and navigation ability. It was powerful beyond comparison at that time. It gave full play to its might in many sea battles to beat back foreign aggressors in the later 16th century. In the park, there also stand panoramas showing the struggle of the Korean people to defend the country and their national dignity from foreign aggressors by displaying patriotic spirit and courage. What is peculiar in the Historic Relics Exhibition District is Korean map section surrounded by seas on three sides. Entering the section, you can find models of the native homes of the three commanders of Mount Baekdu. You can also see models of scenic spots, pavilions, and palaces, and have a profound knowledge of Korea called a 3,000-ri land of beautiful scenery. As you see, Pyongyang Folk Park is an open-air history museum showing the time-honored history and resplendent culture of Korea intensively. In the park, you can see the traditional manners of life of the Korean nation by periods and regions. You can also enjoy different specific services, feeling the hospitality of the Korean nation.